Welcome to the second training mission for the M2000C. In this lesson, we will cover the basics of the INS, including modifying existing waypoints and adding new ones, as well as doing the INS update. You will notice that we start this session with all systems active and an aligned INS. The first thing to remember, and I mentioned this last time already, is that the INS should not be treated as an older version of the GPS. It doesn't emit or receive any signal that would allow to determine the exact location of your plane. Instead, it uses a very complex set of gyroscopes and accelerometers to constantly calculate the position, orientation, and velocity of your plane. However, in order to be able to do this, it needs to be properly aligned to have an accurate starting point for all the calculations. That's why the alignment process is so important. Still, it's not a perfect tool and it suffers from integration drift, accumulated small errors in its velocity and acceleration measurements. As a rule of thumb, the accuracy will degrade by 1 mile for each hour of flight. We can correct that performing an INS position update, and we will cover this process during this sortie. Let's start with the two main panels used for navigation and INS. The PSM, or Poste de Selecteur de Mode, is located on the right console, just above the Environment Control panel. It is responsible for controlling the INS operations. The left knob lets you choose the mode of operation of the INS. In VEI, second position, the gyros remain off, but it is possible to introduce data into the system. ALN and ALCN are used for normal and memory alignment, respectively, while NAV is used as a standard mode during the flight. Finally, SEC is for emergency operations, in which INS provides only aircraft heading and altitude. The right knob will mainly be used in the first two positions. N is the normal default mode. The STS mode will show you the current INS alignment status. We won't need to touch any of these settings during this flight. Let's move on to the PCN, or Poste de Commande de Navigation, the true heart of the INS system. The PCN is located on your right, just below the warning panel. We will go through its functions when you're airborne. This is a good time, though, to familiarize yourself with the prep and DEST functions and with selecting waypoints. The prep button lets you select the waypoint you want to modify or visualize without changing the one currently used for navigation, which is displayed over DEST. DEST is only used for navigation purposes and is visualized in the HUD, the HDD, the ADI, and the HSI. You will also want to use the prep button to check basic current information about your plane, such as altitude, geographic position, and ground track. In order to enter this mode, you should set prep waypoint number to 00. Please note that you cannot do that for DEST. Click on the prep button once. When it lights up, use the numeric keypad to choose a desired waypoint number, in this case 00. Remember that you always have to enter 2 digits, so for waypoints below 10, you will need to introduce 0 first, 01, 02, etc. As soon as the second digit has been entered, the selected waypoint data will be displayed. Choose waypoint 0 as your prep and waypoint 1 as your DEST, and press spacebar when ready. There is an easy way to copy prep to DEST window, or the other way around. It is handy if you want to change some of the waypoint parameters in prep and then quickly make it your DEST. To do so, you need to click the desired button twice. So if you press prep twice, the DEST waypoint number will be copied to prep, and vice versa. Go ahead and make waypoint 1 your prep by using this method. Press spacebar when you are ready to continue. So last thing you need to learn about waypoints is that they change automatically once you get to around 1.5 nautical miles away from them, as long as the ENC light is on. If for some reason you want to keep one waypoint selected all the time, for instance to do a position update, you just need to disable the ENC by pressing it. Keep it on for the moment though. Contact the tower, take off, climb to 10,000 feet and head towards waypoint 1.
In field 1, request takeoff. In field 1, request takeoff.
On the way, we will go through the different display modes of the INS. First, the basics. You have a total of 4 LCD displays used to visualize or to edit data. Left and right main window in the top row, and prep and test windows below, which we have already covered. Underneath them, there is a parameter selector knob which allows you to choose what kind of information will be displayed in the main windows. For this part of the mission, use spacebar after I finish my explanations, and whenever you are ready to move on to description of the next setting. Going from the top, the first position, marked RD-TD, is used to display the selected course and selected time for test mode. We will return to this mode in the next training mission. For waypoint 0 in prep mode, it will show you the ground track and the INS chronometer. The next 3 positions, marked BAD, refer to the offset point. With these, you can make an offset point for each waypoint stored in the memory of the INS. None of these settings will work for waypoint 0. Offset points are most commonly used for precision bombing, but this will be covered in a separate training mission. Here, we will only explain the basics. The Delta L and Delta G setting enables you to set the target's coordinates using the distance in kilometers from the selected waypoint to the north-south for Delta L and east-west for Delta G. The Delta Alt setting is used to set the difference between the waypoint altitude and the offset point altitude. Polar rho theta are introduced in the similar way to the bullseye scores, where in nautical miles, and theta the true north bearing. The next position, deck, is the magnetic variation in degrees between the true and magnetic north. It is displayed in the left window, while the right will remain blank both in test and prep mode for waypoint 0. Note that the magnetic variation can be edited in the INS. The DV-FV position gives you wind direction and speed in knots. It works the same in both test and prep mode. The TR-VS setting will show the remaining time to selected waypoint or offset point in the left window, and your current ground speed in the right one. In prep mode for waypoint 0, only the right one. It is especially useful if the mission briefing gives you ground speed of other assets, like tankers or planes you are required to escort. DRLT shows you the distance in nautical miles and bearing to a waypoint or an offset waypoint. In prep mode for waypoint 0, it will display your true heading in degrees. The last three positions are grouped together as but, which means waypoint in French. CPPD displays the runway heading in the left and runway glide scope in the right window. You can also insert this data manually, which is useful for landing on airfields that do not have the ILS system installed. This position is not used in prep mode for waypoint 0. Alt allows you to check or change the set altitude of a given waypoint for up to 25,000 feet. Left window is used to display the altitude in feet, right one in meters. You will notice that the waypoint altitude from your flight plan will always match the ground elevation of the given spot, so it will be different from the altitude specified in the briefing. This is because, unlike for Russian planes, there is no vertical guidance on the HUD in M2000C. In prep mode, the Alt position shows the current altitude of your aircraft in feet and meters. Finally, the LG position is used to determine or change the latitude and longitude coordinates of the waypoint and to display your current position if you are in the prep mode for waypoint 0. Now is a good time to learn how to create a new waypoint and add it to your flight plan. We will do so by entering its latitude and longitude into the PCM. Before we start, a general remark about two types of data which can be used, signed and unsigned. Signed data needs you to specify whether the value you are about to enter is positive or negative. Examples are selecting northeast, southwest before entering waypoint coordinates, choosing plus or minus for altitude or magnetic destination. Unsigned data assumes that your input will always have a positive value. This will be true for runway heading and glide scope, selected bearing and time or offset distance. Alright, go ahead and press the prep button once, then select waypoint 2 by pressing 0 and 2 on the keypad. Put the selector knob in the LG position. You will notice that no data is displayed in any of the PCM windows. This is because waypoint 2 is a new one and it requires a set of latitude and longitude coordinates to be introduced before it can be used. Press spacebar when ready to proceed. Press button 1 or 7 on the keypad in order to select the left window. You will enter the latitude data, so first thing you need to do is select north by pressing 2. Next, enter the coordinates 423222. Once this is done, press the INS button to save it. If you make a mistake, you can clear the window by pressing the EFF button. Press spacebar when you are ready to continue. Now let's move to longitude. For that, first press 3 or 9 in order to select the right LCD. Select east by pressing 6 and enter the following coordinates 041, 47, 14. Next, save the data using the INS button. Waypoint 2 is ready to be used now. If you like, you can also set the desired altitude for it. Let's do it now. Move the selector knob to Alt position. You have an option to use either feet or meters, which are displayed in the left or right window, respectively. Press 1 to select altitude in feet. Then press it once again in order to indicate that you will be entering a positive data. A small plus will be displayed. Now enter 00262 and press the INS button. Press spacebar when you are ready to continue. Now you know how to enter new waypoints. In order to edit existing ones, you have to use exactly the same system, choosing a desired waypoint in prep mode. Let's move on to the final part of this mission, which is the INS position update. Press spacebar when ready to continue. We will use the waypoint which you have just created to do so. It should be close to the railway bridge not far from Zugdidi, a landmark which is quite easy to spot and recognize. Select waypoint 2 as your desk now and turn towards it. Generally speaking, for the INS update, you will need to use a landmark with a known position and elevation in order to perform a successful update. It also has to be set up as one of the waypoints in your flight plan. It is a good idea to make a list of several landmarks that are close to the envisaged flight plan before each longer sortie and note down their coordinates. That way, you can always choose one of them, enter its position into the INS, and use it for the update. There are two ways of performing the update: waypoint flyby and waypoint radar ranging. We will try both. Once you get to less than 10 nautical miles from the waypoint, you will see a cross showing its position on the ground. First thing which you will need to do is to visually acquire the landmark. It may be located quite far from the waypoint due to INS drift. Press spacebar when you can locate the landmark. OK, navigate directly towards the landmark disregarding the INS cues. Once you are over it, press the REC button. Look at the LCD displays on your PCM. Depending on your selector knob setting, you will see two different types of data. If the knob is in delta L, delta G mode, you will see the difference in latitude and longitude between the landmark and the place where the INS thinks it's located. This difference will be given in nautical miles. If the knob is in any other position, the difference will be shown in polar coordinates. The left LCD display will show the distance difference in nautical miles, while the right LCD will show the bearing difference. It is up to you to decide whether the data you see is correct or not. If you want to accept it, press the VAL button. The accumulated drift will be corrected and both REC and VAL buttons will go dark. Go ahead and press the VAL button or make another attempt to do the position update. Use the F10 menu if you want to give it one more go. I will repeat the instructions for you.